installment of Doc Hartree versus the World. I'm here with Mr. Black and a new guest, Mr. Green. And we've got a show today that's going to probably blow your hair back even more so than the previous two. I'm actually going to take a little bit of a back seat here, and I'm going to let Mr. Green and Mr. Black kind of wax their various spiritual beliefs, as well as Mr. Green's own foray. Well, not foray. Foray is a connotation meaning a beginner. His own experiences with astral projection. So let's get some bio on you, Mr. Green. So when did you first figure out that you had this particular gift?
About 4 to 6 years ago.
Okay. And what caused it?
Actually, Mr. Black introduced me to it. He kind of told me about it, and I was kind of in a wrong place at that time. You know, smoking marijuana, doing things of that nature, and completely stopped it. Looked up some videos on how to do it, and I was successful in my 6th or 7th try.
No kidding.
Yep.
So what goes into the process? Is it a meditation, or is it actually like something you do while you sleep?
I mean, there's various forms of it. You can do it while you're sleeping, which is called lucid dreaming, and then as well as meditation.
I do that all the time, where you know you're in a dream, but yeah, I just remember like sometimes I'm walking across a field of like burning corn.
Yeah, yeah,
it's a weird plane.
it's kind of for real. Knowing that you could control what you're dreaming, what you want to do. I mean, in any instance, you could walk up a wall if you wanted to.
My whole thing was when I was lucid dreaming as a kid. I don't know what it was. It was fascination with the game Street Fighter 2. So when I was in this state, I would always try to throw a Hadouken. And then later on, when I became more of a Star Wars fan, I was trying to, force grab stuff from like across the way.
Right.
And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
Yeah, it definitely takes time to be a really perfectionist at lucid dreaming. You have to get a dream journal. You want to wake up an hour before your alarm is set, so that way you can record your dream.
Oh.
And then you want something that lets you know, like if you have a watch, you put it on your right side of your hand before you go to bed, so that way when you wake up, or while you're dreaming, you look at your hand and it's on the left side, and you're like, wait a minute, my watch was on my right side. I'm dreaming right now.
What always got me, if I can speak correctly here, there's actually a really good movie out there called Waking Life. Have you seen it? It's all drawn. It's like the weird animation where it's drawn over real actors.
Okay.
And it's about a guy. This was actually prior to the movie Inception by a good 10, 15 years.
Okay.
There's another movie out there called Scanner Darkly. It's the same director, not the same author, but the same director. And it would give you little bits of information, like if you think you're in a dream, whip out your cell phone. If you can't punch the keys or whatever, and you can't correlate the key to the number on the screen, you're dreaming. Or you have like a garage door opener, you try and punch the code in.
Right.
I remember a really recent one actually. I dreamt I was still back in the classroom, and I was trying to look up a dinosaur video for the kids to watch, but the keyboard was all messed up, and every key that I pushed was a different character on the screen.
Right. Yeah, it's very similar in lucid dreaming. If you actually try going in front of a mirror while you're dreaming, you can't see your face.
I've heard
it's
that.
Blurred.
I've heard the blurry mirror, and I've also heard puddles of water. You're not going to see your reflection.
And your hands are blurred as well, or discombobulated looking. It's pretty interesting lucid dreaming, but
I kind of go out. I go in between like a third person, watching myself, and a first person.
That's the third person. I would say is more. You get more third person in astral projecting than you
really?
do in lucid dreaming. Yeah. Because in astral projecting, what you're actually doing is you're leaving your physical form of your body and transcending. That's what the Buddhist monks would call it.
And that's actually a really good cartoon that I'm surprised was for kids, but there's a lot of adult stuff in it. Was Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yeah.
When he would he'd do the meditation, go to the spirit realm.
Right.
And he'd find the face stealer, all the demons that kind of hide out in the spirit realm.
Right.
That was pretty gnarly for something made for 10-year-olds.
Right. Yeah. It's actually interesting on what's televised. I mean, you got what was that one movie with Will Ferrell and It's where he goes back in time, or not back in time. He falls through this cave, and there's dinosaurs.
Oh, not Lost World, Land of the Lost.
Right.
I mean, well, that was based off an old TV series and based off another younger TV series of the same nature.
Right. Have you ever noticed that most televised movies, or anything you see in the movie theater, I have this theory where if you can think it, then it must exist. It might not exist at this time, but it's not possible for you to come up with something brand new.
No,
It's never happened.
I hate to keep talking about myself here because we're supposed to be talking about you, but in remember Mr. Well, I can't say his name, but I was in a sophomore honors history class, and one of his little things, like kind of get the maybe came into work with a hangover and just wanted us to all just sort of like do our own thing for like the next hour.
Right.
We had to write a skit, or not a skit, a short story about our vision of the future.
Right.
And no shit, I wrote this whole thing out about how we can clone ourselves and then have our brain waves put onto a hard drive and then put back into our heads. And this was back in 1996.
Okay.
And then in 1999, I saw that movie The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay.
Blew me away because that was the exact same premise I came up
Right.
with.
Yeah. There's just one book I read back in the '60s. It was published in the '60s, and he talked about headphones, like the regular iPhone earbuds that you get with your phone. He talked about that in the '60s before they were even invented.
You know, it's crazy. If you go back and watch like some of the old school like James Bond movies,
Right.
all the like there's this one like, okay, Mr. Bond, if you take a picture with this camera, it will spit the photo out.
Right.
And this was like before Polaroid.
Right. And CIA got all of that technology, and they took all their pictures or whatever they do, their top secret nonsense that they have. But it's interesting how anything that we believe or that we can think of, someone has already thought of it.
Yeah.
There's no original thought in anything. Everything's already premeditated and all of that.
There was a drum magazine because I used to live with a guy who was a drummer, good
Okay.
guy, and his name was, the drummer's last name was Bruford, I believe. Anyways, he was a multi-talented drummer. He could keep a beat going with just one hand. Well, two separate beats, one hand, a drumstick like held between one knuckle and the other knuckle. And I think during an interview on like Drummers Weekly or Drummers Monthly or whatever the hell, one of those magazines,
Right.
it was he said it's really humbling because as a drummer, there's nothing that we've done so far that some guy 3,000 years ago wasn't doing on a log with two sticks.
Right. And 200 years ago, someone was doing something with a log and two sticks.
Yep.
But back to the astral projecting. It took quite a while for me to, basically do it on command. It was it's kind of hard. I mean, I still can't do it. I mean, I could do it on command, but it takes a certain amount of time before you get into that relaxed state. It's almost like have you ever had like a hard weight on your chest, like similar to like how you feel like, oh, I gotta get this off my shoulders,
Yes.
like how it's in your chest like that though. When it comes to astral projecting, it's quite similar in that way, except you kind of feel it more in your stomach. I remember the first time I astral projected, it was strange because everything around me was purple. I didn't know if I was dreaming or what. And what ended up happening was I was sitting down. I remember it clear as day. I was sitting down in Indian style. I looked up a video on how to meditate. That's the first step I did. Right? And I was sitting down Indian style. And all I could remember, or all that I do remember, is this weird sensation, almost like a string was pulling out of my belly button.
Okay.
And I was able to stand up. Well, I really wasn't standing. I was kind of floating, but I was able to see myself in third person.
So you physically did the whole thing where like you physically got out of your body and you saw yourself sitting there.
Right, and it was interesting because I was like, okay, so am I doing it? Let me find out. So I tested it a little bit. I was able to go through walls.
Wow.
I remember that night I went up into the sky and went around all of Lancaster and Palmdale.
No kidding.
Yeah, I was able to see chases, police going after in and out people,
Huh.
trying to get robbed or whatever, and there's this weird light, almost like an aurora in the sky. It's
Okay.
completely interesting. I go up to it, and I'm looking at it, and it's this man, Ethan.
Ethan. Okay.
Ethan, and I'm like, hi, how are you? You know, do the basic introduce myself to him, right? Because that's all I know. Like, I'm completely new at this. What am I doing? Turns out that this man is so, or I like to refer to him as my guardian being.
Okay.
Now, I remember before the show, I was giving you a little background info on myself, and I was telling you, oh, there's these, like, it's very similar with magicians, how they have these demon beings who go and try to show them, oh, this is what you do. I'll help you do this. In return, you do this for me,
Okay.
right? And I'll get back on the demon beings on the next show.
Okay.
But basically, he basically told me, come with me. Now, that night, this was, I want to say, maybe 6 years ago. That night, I found something past our solar system. And you can actually look this up. There's a very Earth-like replica beyond the stars. And I'm not, like, every time I talk about this, because I don't talk about it with most people, it gives me the chills almost.
Are we talking like a similar solar system situation where there's like an Earth clone, like the same, like what, 96 million miles away from the sun, or is it like an Earth clone just out there in space?
I mean, I would say 960 miles away from the sun is a little close.
I meant 960 million or
Oh,
96
sorry.
million. Sorry.
I think that's a little close too.
What is the Earth? Is it 96 million miles?
I think it's one astronomical unit from the sun.
Okay. Either way.
But
Is
basically, this planet, I want to say, is 22 times bigger than Earth itself.
No kidding.
Really. And what is strange is this was before NASA said they're not a company anymore. Right?
Okay.
This is when NASA, it was like 2 weeks before they sent out their last shuttle.
Yeah, before they got dismantled, I believe.
Right, yeah. Whatever happened with NASA, I don't know. But this was 2 weeks before that. This was, I want to say, 6 months after they sent out their deep space probe
Okay.
to find, sister planets or whatever. Now, this planet, according to NASA, is exactly, or not, I wouldn't say exactly because I don't know the exact number, but it's pretty distant away from our solar system. They said that it was 22 size times bigger than the Earth, and they named it Kepler 22b.
Okay.
I found this 6 months before they even said that.
Wow.
Right. And Ethan, the guy I was talking about earlier, or just previously, brought me to that planet. The way, now I didn't know how to fly, right? I didn't know how to. Okay, I want to go over there. How do I get over there? It was kind of like a kid learning how to fly a remote control airplane.
Okay.
Basically. Have you ever? I'm sure you've seen the movie Star Wars, right?
Yes.
Okay, you know how they do deep, or what is it called, time slip space or
Yeah, when they do a hyperspace.
hyperspace. There you go. Okay, now you know how the stars in the
Kind
older,
of, they sort of become a like a orb of glowiness, and
yeah,
then
and then they just shoot past you.
Yep.
Right. It was very, very similar to that. Now I don't know if it was like that because that's how I interpreted it, or what. But basically, that's what happened. And here I was at this new planet with I want to say this moon. Okay, so this moon, you know how Saturn has an asteroid belt around it?
Oh yeah.
Okay, this was the same thing with this moon.
Okay.
It was 10 times bigger than the moon we have, and there was a sun rotating around, right? Now, that planet, I would characterize it as the movie Avatar. You seen Avatar?
Yes.
That's probably the best representation of how that
Very
planet
lush
looks.
green physics.
Very lush green.
Physics that as we know it, don't really apply.
Right.
It's like the cover of a Yes album.
Right. The only difference is you don't step down and everything glows or whatever.
Gotcha.
But that was the first time I astral project, and that experience was unreal. And then ever since then, I've gotten better. I remember one time I astral projected and there was a plane flying overhead me. I went in the cockpit and found out that they're going all the way to Washington.
Huh,
I looked up the airplane model and turned out to be Washington. That's where they were traveling to. So
that's a trip.
it's pretty interesting on what you can actually do with your transcendence. I mean, in order to do it properly, you need to actually be pure. You can't smoke cigarettes, can't smoke weed. You want to try to keep your body at the pure state because it does take a toll on you. First time I did it, I was completely exhausted. I never felt exhaustion as much as I did that night when I went to Kepler 22B.
Now I've got a couple of associates, acquaintances, um, who are one of them maintains they can astral project, but the other one is absolutely terrified because she believes that something akin to that movie Insidious
Mm-hmm.
could happen, where an extra dimensional or an extra demonic or whatever have you being can kick you out of your body and take possession of your body. Is that something that can happen, or does happen, or is that just sort of a way to kind of discourage people from doing it?
I would say it's something that could happen depending on what type of personality you have. Me, for instance, I try to stay away from all negativity. If there is negativity towards me, I don't give into it. I just let it run off my shoulders.
Understood.
Um, but in terms of like how you were saying, insidious, someone coming into your body, that goes back all the way to the demon beings that I was talking to you about. That's all different manipulations of spirits who are able to control your body better than you can control it.
Wow.
So, I mean, again, that's another time for another story. So.
Understood.
Um,
Is it?
Mr. Black here. I've had an interesting astral projection. Uh, I've been trying to astral project for a year now, and I really every time I go to do it, I fall asleep. I mean, probably because I work so much, I'm always tired when I go to try to astral project, and I get to that relaxation point, and I see the purple, and then I almost leave my body, and instead I just end up going to sleep. Now, there was one time that I was able to astral project, and it was interesting because I was at the hospital doing a sleep study because I have sleep apnea, and they wanted me to they wanted to analyze my sleep without a breathing machine.
Okay.
And before I went to the hospital to do this sleep study, because I was spending the night there, I ate a bunch of candy and drank soda and got all riled up. And they'd go, okay, well, now we need you to go sleep without the machine. I'm like, well, that's impossible. That's not happening. I just ate all this candy and drank all this soda.
Sugar high.
So in the meantime, they've got me plugged into about 30 different electrons, reading different parts of my body to study the way I sleep and just to study my neurons and everything. Well, the interesting thing was, immediately I was astral projected.
Really?
Immediately when I was hooked, as soon as I laid down and tried to go to sleep, I couldn't sleep, but my body went to sleep, and I found myself flying around the San Fernando Valley,
Wow.
and I could hear like a sizzling sound the whole time, and it was actually the air going past me. I believe that's what it was. But I was flying around and flying around. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm finally doing it. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's quite an extraordinary experience.
I mean, I wasn't going anywhere past Earth. I probably could have if I had realized what was really going on. But just the fact that I was astral projecting, I was so excited. I actually went back into my body and left again and was flying again. And I actually saw some more people flying around.
Yeah.
But I knew I'd heard not to follow anyone else's path, to go your own path.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you're doing something like that, it's very important that you go your own path. And I know, okay, I'm not going to follow these guys, but I seen them off in the distance. But it was the craziest thing. The temperature was one steady temperature. I was probably flying about 60 miles an hour. I could see helicopters. I could see cars going by, the city lights and everything. It was nighttime when it happened. But pretty interesting. And Mr. Green, I've heard your stories for quite some time, and you've been to some really cool places. Why don't you tell us about some of the places you've been to and Tell us some more about some of the stuff you've done.
Well, we already talked about Kepler 22b and NASA going through that, and a couple other places I've been to. Not too far from Kepler 22b, there's another planet. Okay, it's a little bit smaller than Earth, and I don't know if you, I don't know how many skeptics there are about astral projecting, but I mean, there's a whole Facebook page. You can find YouTube videos of people talking about their experiences. Now, most of the stuff I tell you can't find on YouTube or Facebook. But when it comes down to this new planet that I just discovered, NASA hasn't said anything about it, or they try to at least, but they're so afraid of the people. Oh, there's other beings here. This planet, I want to say, is maybe zero point 0.5, I don't know, zero point 0.5 times smaller than Earth. And these people, I've actually seen them. And it's crazy how they react to me. I don't know about anybody else. I haven't seen anybody talk about what I'm talking about right now. But it's almost like they know you're there.
Hmm.
And these people are still in the Stone Age. They haven't adapted. They haven't done anything. They've been on this planet, I want to say, for maybe a millennium. Just progressing. You know, the population's getting bigger. It's almost like our version of the Neanderthals, I want to say. Now, when it comes down to why they haven't had any technology, they have fire, they have all that stuff, like your basic Neanderthal, but they have no fire. I mean, they have no technology. It's because that, I don't know, I've heard Mr. Black's old show or old podcast on how he was talking about how aliens come and the Galactic Federation and all of them. I've actually did some research into that, and I reached out to communities and I checked out to see if, you know, is the Galactic Federation going to any other solar systems or any habitable planets, and it's only ours. This planet has no sightings, no nothing, and it's the reason why they have no technology. You see, I believe, or my spiritual self believes, that we got technology because we needed it.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense. You know, I think an extraterrestrial or an unknown figure came to this planet, gave us technology, and see what are we going to do with it, and are we going to defend ourselves with it.
Well, it's the whole. I mean, that goes back to several different myths throughout the ages. You've got the myth of Prometheus from the Greeks.
Right.
You have the myth of Lucifer.
Right.
Pretty much the grantor of wisdom, and then they found themselves afoul of their own people when they gave the mortals, you know, the light or the fire or the whatever. Because Prometheus was he pissed off Zeus, you know, and got chained to a rock for a couple hundred years while the vulture ate his liver.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we all know what happened with the whole Old Testament thing with Lucifer and the forbidden fruit.
Right.
I think there's also something going on there. I think in the Epic of Gilgamesh, I think there was another wisdom bringer. I'm not quite sure. I know there's a bunch of stuff in Sumeria. I know there's stuff in ancient Egyptian stuff, all about like a being of whatever you want to call it, giving us mortals, you know, you call it fire, you call it the divine light, you call it technology, and then running afoul of the people that they were descended from.
Right. You know, if you actually think about it, I want to say it was a mess up. I think someone in the distant future created a time machine, flew back at the wrong period of time, because if you look at ancient Egypt text, there's actual astronauts that look like today's current astronauts. So either that time's coming now, or we're not changing nothing for a couple of years, and that time machine's coming out pretty soon. Because there's, I mean, the Mayans have it, the Egyptians had it. Every ancient civilization had a figure that looked like current day's astronauts. I don't know if you ever seen Ancient Aliens, and I don't know if most of what they say is true. But there was an old cave found in Peru. In that cave, there was a carving of what appeared to be a current day airplane with an astronaut suit next to it.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, there's also the that crazy glyph that can only be seen from the air
Right.
of a spaceman.
Right.
And then you have the ancient Egyptians, and once they like no one's been able to figure out. I mean, it's not this whole like thing from like Fifth Element where it's like Aziz light,
Yeah.
like the implications of like reflecting light with mirrors throughout the entire maze of the pyramids is just improbable.
Right.
So, and you actually see the carvings on the glyphs of them like holding these balls of light.
Right.
And there's even like I think recent studies, not studies, but like recent like data or whatever, people coming back saying, well, look, check it out. They're holding cell phones here, or they're holding communication devices.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard Mr. Black's past podcasts on how they're sending people into the past, and I actually thought about it for a minute, and I said, okay, how is this actually correct? How can I prove that this is right? So I did a couple research, and there's actually some CIA photographs of current time events like Martin Luther King Jr., all your historical events in your basic history, but where you see people,
The death of Abraham Lincoln.
the death of Abraham Lincoln.
There was even a boxing match between God, who was the big superstar.
Muhammad Ali,
No. The Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
There's an old Tyson fight where you see some guy that looks like an honest to goodness like iPad, right
Yeah.
there recording the fight.
Yeah, there's so, I mean, whether it's photoshopped or what, I mean, to get a picture to be photoshopped in that small portion of what appears to be
I've
like retard.
I've dabbled in Photoshop, and if you've got the patience, you can literally make anything. But it's just a matter of like the thing that separates a Photoshop master from like the goober like putting Sasquatch on the moon or whatever. It's patience, and it's like why would someone take and then like 'cause you never have it you never like the picture with the phone or whatever at the Tyson fight. It doesn't say photo credit of so and so or so and so found this. It's like a whole lot of work. And I'm not saying hoaxes are impossible, but it's a whole lot of work to get next to no recognition.
Right.
There's a guy who was in the Montauk Project when he was a child. His name is Andrew Basiago. He's an attorney in Washington, and they used to send him back in time to try and witness the murder of Abraham Lincoln. And every time he'd go back in time, a different person ended up killing Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
There's even a photo of him as a child at the theater walking to the theater. Somebody was taking a picture, and they caught a picture of him as a kid, of Andrew Basiago as a child walking through the lot to go up to the booth to pay for a ticket to get in and see if he could witness the death of Abraham Lincoln or the murder of Abraham Lincoln. And it's a real popular picture. If you look it up, you can see it. Andrew Basiago is he's trying to blow the lid on all this time travel and things like that. And he says that they had a bunch of kids that would go back in time, and they would take you and move you back in time just to witness what happened and then bring you back. But every now and then, like one time, one of the kids went back in time and landed in a pool of water, and his feet were missing when he appeared back in time.
Oh, geez.
He lost his feet. So a lot of bad things would happen to these kids.
Right.
So, and I think that's why they sent kids, because they didn't really give a shit about anybody at that point in time back then. But he said he witnessed a lot of terrible things happen to these kids because they send you back to a spot, but they don't know what's there when they send you there. So, if there's water in the way or liquid for some reason,
it's like in Back to the Future where he shoots straight at the mall and he winds up taking out a tree.
right.
I mean, you don't know what's there in the past.
Right. So apparently with Andrew Basiago, what he was saying is they sent him back in time multiple times to witness the murder of Abraham Lincoln, and each time either it already happened or a different person killed him and he was looking at the wrong person and he couldn't figure out who it was. Something about time travel and quantum physics and quantum mechanics, it doesn't allow you to witness it. Time travel does not let you witness it happening for some reason, and they've done the experiments even to this day, where they try to record time travel, and it stops. It goes the other direction. So something real weird about trying to witness it.
Well, it's like that particle. I forget what the heck it's called. Um, if if the scientists were trying to record it as a particle, it came up not there.
Right.
And if they tried recording as it not being there, it came as a particle.
Right.
It's some weird, like, I want to say quark, but I think that quark is actually an outdated concept. But it's something
It's
crazy.
some kind of law in quantum physics that does not allow it to be recorded, and it's pretty wild. And you were talking, Mr. Green, you were talking about the time police.
Yeah.
It's a group of military personnel. They're based out of 2010, and they use cars, aircraft, UFOs, and what they do is they go back and forward through time, and they make sure certain events take place and certain people live and certain people die. What's that movie that they just came out not too long ago with the guy who was supposed to be the president? They watch the guys with the hats. They go through all these doors. You got to have the hat on, a special hat on, and you walk through a door and it puts you in a different spot of the city to track people.
Huh? Looper? No.
Mark Wahlberg was in it. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember the name of the movie.
Deception?
Not Inception.
No.
Anyways, the movie's not around anymore. They seem to pull those kind of weird movies real fast. But it's weird how a force based out of 2010 is controlling our future and our past. And there's videos on YouTube. There's a guy, back when a bridge was opening in Brazil, and there's a guy standing there in 1936 wearing an MTV T-shirt.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, come on. I mean,
Well, there's also the video of the, it's like the sketched out guy with the hoodie, and somebody starts following him. I think it's like in Taipei or something like that, and he literally runs off,
he jumps.
and there's a flash,
He's a jumper.
and disappears.
Oh,
Yeah.
I seen something very similar to that where he's on a motorcycle and before he crashes into a semi, you
Yes,
see a flash and then he's gone.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's the same guy with the gloves, with the white gloves.
yeah, that's the guy with the white gloves, and he has some type of technology to transport him real quickly.
right. What's that other one? The Charlie Chaplin movie.
Yeah.
There's a Charlie Chaplin movie where they're filming Hollywood Boulevard in between sets, in between where everyone's on break and they're just filming the sidewalk and people walking by, and some guy's walking by holding a cell phone, talking into a cell phone.
Yeah, and no one
And
has
this
cell
is-
phones.
This is in 1929 or something.
Right.
So there's a lot of strange things going on out there, and I know we're here on this, we're doing this show on Astral Projection, but it's very, very related to time travel, and I myself have time travel. I actually had an experience where I went back in time, and I went to my house where I was a kid and tried to have a conversation with myself. And my father wouldn't let me in. He's like, "Who the hell are you?" And I explained to him who I am, that I'm from the future. And, I did all this in my sleep, by the way. It's very interesting how I did it. But I was trying to tell my dad I'm from the future, and I really need to talk to me as a kid to warn him about certain events that are going to take place. And my dad was like, "You're crazy. I'm not going to let you talk to my son unless you prove to me that you're really from the future." So I started telling my dad things that happened when I was a kid that he did to my mom, and certain, like, he got into a fight with my mom and burned his truck down in the front yard, and he let me in right away when I told him that.
Wow.
So I talked to my old man for about 20 minutes and told him, and here's the crazy part: I was wearing clothes from the future, different shoes, dicky cutoffs. I had a black Cali shirt on, which was not around back then.
Right.
And so I went back about 25 years, or about 20 years into the past, and he finally let me talk to me as a kid. And I went outside, and there I was about 11 years old, and I'm sitting there, and I'm wearing blue jeans and a white t-shirt, my hair's all messed up, and I'm playing with a weed whacker, trying to put string into the weed whacker, and this kid's looking at me like this guy's high, one of my dad's crazy friends. I'll just listen to what he has to say or whatnot. And I'm telling him, hey, when you graduate high school, don't go to this after high graduation party because there's going to be a lot of drugs there and you're going to get in a lot of trouble. And he kind of looked at me like I was nuts. And basically, I kept telling him, just don't do drugs, just stay clean. Do what you're doing, keep working, get a job, join the fire department, and don't mess up. So after talking to this kid for about 15 minutes, I left and woke up. Now here's the funny part. I was so confused by what I had done. I had to really pull back my memories from when I was a kid. And about a week and a half later, this memory comes out.
Wow.
And I remember this me being a little kid, and one of my dad's weird friends was at the house. I'd never seen the guy before, and I never saw him again. And I thought, why isn't my dad out here while this guy's talking to me? And I remember saying, who is this weird guy, and what is this clothes he's wearing? And I go, they don't even, I remember saying to myself, I've never even seen a shirt like that. Who is this guy? So, really weird, man. And, I haven't been able to do it again. That's one of the things I tried so hard to do was time travel. And I've always been obsessed with it since I was a kid. And I was finally so obsessed with it that I finally did it. And it's kind of like the astral projection thing. I've been so obsessed with it that I finally did it one time. And pretty wild stuff. I haven't been able to astral project again, and I have not been able to time travel again. But
that's kind of similar to me in a way. Almost, I didn't time travel backwards. I time traveled forward.
Okay.
Now, as I said, when it comes to lucid dreaming, I'll touch up on the lucid dreaming part because this is the main part of time traveling forward. What you need to do is, you go to sleep. You want to set your alarm an hour before you want to wake up, right? So that way, you wake up in shock. You got your memory from what you were dreaming about in your head, and you can record it down. Okay. Now, one day, I was dreaming. I didn't set my alarm clock up or anything, and I remembered my dream so clearly. Now, most dreams you see only bits and fragments of it, right?
Yes.
You can't remember the whole dream from the time you fall asleep to the time you wake up. But for some reason, this dream in particular was very, very much in my head. So I wake up and I wake up as a normal day. For some reason I didn't record it this time. I wasn't trying to lucid dream that night for some reason or whatever the case may be. But for some reason in that dream, I planned out my whole day at work. I planned out what my boss was going to tell me, how everything was going to go down, and word by word, everything that he said, everything that I thought of, went exactly the same way as it was.
I've had a very similar experience recently with. I get deja vu all the time.
Yeah.
Some more so than others. But I was actually with a friend of mine. You probably heard on a previous podcast. We gave him the nickname Larry Ballin because he couldn't think of one himself. But we were actually leaving the finisher's house, and I had this just weird moment of like memory. It wasn't even deja vu. It was like memory.
Uh-huh.
And I even turned to him and I go, well, I said his real name, but hey Larry, because he actually moved he moved up north about a year prior. I go, have we hung out
Right.
in any capacity after you moved out of here?
Right.
He's like, no. And I'm like, that's weird. He's like, did you get deja vu? I'm like, I got deja vu. He's like, I got fucking deja vu too.
Yeah.
It was a weird, really weird experience. I remember the staircase and everything. It was strange.
Right. Yeah. It's as you start astral projecting, I don't know if you want to try it yourself, but deja vu for some reason is a common occurrence. I probably get deja vu maybe once or twice every 2 days.
Wow.
It's not. I can say, oh, so, like for instance, for today, I asked you about a certain state, and you told me your father was from that certain state.
Yes.
I had a deja vu that moment, and that's why I was like, did you come from here, or? So, deja vu happens. It's no. From a quantum physics standpoint, it's a time loop. Basically, you have two rings, and if you're like on the ring,
And when it intersects,
when they
that's
intersect,
deja
that's
vu.
a deja vu, right?
Okay.
That's from a quantum physics standpoint. I mean, I don't know if quantum.
It's for multiple timelines. Is what
Right.
It's about.
Yeah, I mean,
It's when one timeline overlaps with another timeline.
right. I mean, you can say what it is. You can say what you think it is. I mean, quantum physics is based off theories. It's not. It's not okay.
I've always been told that deja vu means you're on the right track. It means you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're living your life. You're consciously in the future, present, and the past, all at the same time. And when you can combine the three, and you're constantly getting deja vus, that means you're right where you need to be.
That's a good idea. But there's a lot to digest here. I'm going to let you guys trail off for the next 5 minutes or so. But I'm going to pack this up because this is a lot of stuff for the listeners to digest. And I feel that with my 45-minute and below videos, people on the YouTube statistics actually listen to those the longest. If that makes sense. Because I got the hour and 15 minutes where I'm rambling about Captain America. That's cool and everything, but I get like the people average listen space like 4.5 minutes.
Right.
But no, that's some heavy shit, dude. That's some heavy shit, and I'm glad you. We have to definitely do a continuation of this show.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Doc. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me over. I came back from Glendale today. I was so close just to passing out on the couch. I'm like, you know what? Something's telling me I got to do this podcast.
Yeah. That's your astral being.
Well, maybe I can get more in tune with the guy now that I know some of the pitfalls I heard about the experience weren't necessarily pitfalls, just maybe overcautious people.
Yeah, just when it comes down to it, just
Stay positive.
Stay positive, and if you experience something worse, notice it, but keep going.
Okay.
Don't let it stop you, and don't let it rewind you, basically, from your steps.
Gotcha.
Hey, Mr. Green, one more thing before we end the show. You were telling me the other day about one of your astral projections down to the Hollow Earth.
Oh yes,
Agartha, it's called.
Yeah.
Can you quick tell us about that? Quick, give us a good rundown on what you found down there.
Okay, so according to my astral projection that I have, the Maya civilization, all the civilizations that basically at one time just disappeared.
Yeah.
No one never heard of them again.
Atlanteans.
Yeah, everything. These people, some mystical being or someone who had great guidance over them, was able to bring them down to the center of the earth.
Okay.
Now, in the center of the earth, I'm gonna touch it real quick. There's more than humans down there. There's other beings and everything. What they're using those people for is almost like slave work.
Oh wow.
In a way, I mean, it's not like black slavery, but basically, I mean, they're getting work done and they're getting stuff in return.
Gotcha.
It's like a give and receive type thing.
Okay.
But there's a lot of stuff going in on that subject at hand, and it's quite interesting.
That sounds like definitely something for the next show to pick up on.
Yeah, so I'll be happy to touch on it next time.
Absolutely, guys. Well, once again, time is our enemy, or our friend, depending on how you look at it. And I want to thank Mr. Green immensely,
Yeah,
and
no problem.
Mr. Black for setting the meeting up, introducing us, and
Got it.
wherever you are, good evening, good afternoon, good night. And if you like the podcast, just gently finger that like button. Talk to you guys later. Doc signing out.